As you all know, the next banner we are getting actually today is going to be Momo and Nono Wheel on a dual banner. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'm personally not a fan of these banners. That's why I did not make a video on if you should pull or not. Up to you. Personally, I don't like them. So what I'm going to be doing instead is a complete build on both Momo and Nono Wheel, starting first with Momo, and later today I'll post another video going over Nono Wheel's kit and how she works. So let's get started with the trade, gear, skills that I would recommend, and if it's worth pulling or not for Momo. As usual, before we start, leave a like, subscribe, help me grow the channel, and let's get started with Momo trade. Now her trade is pretty straightforward. As you can see, if we go to like the first start, every enemy that's within 3 tiles will take extra damage over time damage, and this applies for multiple things, and this is important for the weapons as well. Remember this. This works for Scorch, Infection, Life Loss, Stigmata, and Corrosion. And then she will also gain at the end of each turn 2 stacks of Repulsion Barrier, up to 5 stacks with a cooldown of 2 turns. This Repulsion Barrier will increase her attack, will block physical damage, and you will lose 1 stack every time you are attacked. This cannot be immunized or dispelled and can be stacked up to 5 times. This is pretty good. I really like it, and works super well with her kit to actually do damage over time or Infection, which is basically every bladder team. All of the full riggers, or most of them, work around the Infection mechanics, and Momo is not an exception. Now let's move into the skills and what I personally recommend. Now, like I will always say, this is my recommendations. You guys can use whatever you like, okay? This game has so many situations where you can use characters that there is no one perfect build. So let's start with rank 1, and in my opinion in here it does not really matter which one you pick because you will not be using them long term. But I would pick Field since it's an aura that will help you at the beginning a lot. If you are lacking damage and you want to go with Energy Ray, it's also a good option, but her basic skill it's already pretty good doing the Misfortune Erosion. As you can see, it's a good AoE damage that is quite big and deals nice damage and applies Infection. So I would not go for the first skill. I would personally pick the aura that decreases all allies damage taken by AoE effects. When it comes to rank 3, we go into the first time that you can pick both skills. As you all know, you can use Castalias to actually level up multiple skills, and this is one of those cases where both are pretty good. If you are going for an Infection build, for the damage over time build, you want to go with Erosive Power. As you can see, this will increase your damage by 10%, and anytime you're doing damage, it will inflict an extra stack of Infection. When it comes to Repulsion application, you can use this skill to push or pull enemies towards you. Not only that, but this is a really good AoE pull and push, meaning you can be throwing enemies off the maps where they don't have immunity to knockback, and early on this skill will help you a lot more than the Erosive Power. But the moment you start getting into the mid-late game, you want to go with Erosive Power to actually start building Momo for her proper damage over time build. Once again, this is the case where you want to take both of them. If you have a Castalia available, that's what I would recommend personally. Now we can talk about the reactions, and this also depends on what you're doing. So if you're going for your damage over time, of course you want to go with the left Erosive Force Field, since when you block a melee attack damage with your passive Repulsion Barrier, you will perform a Strike Back, which is going to be dealing magical damage and inflicting more stacks of Infection. As you can see, every single bladder always works with this mechanic, and they are pretty strong together because how many stacks you can apply on a fight. When it comes to the rank 7, there is 2 options in here, and personally the one I like is Toughness. Now, if you want to go with the normal AoE mage build instead of the damage over time, I would recommend going with Dark Ripple, which is a really good AoE that prevents enemies from using passive skills and reaction skills. But if you're going for the damage over time and infections, then Dark Ripple is not as useful, so I would personally pick Toughness. This is another place where you can pick both skills if you wanted to, since it's more of a situational pick. Now, when it comes to rank 9, it's not so much situational. There is actually a clear winner, and that's going to be Invigorating Strike. Now, this will recover energy on every single time you attack with this basic attack. As you all know, energy recovery in this game is really strong, and most mages need to have it because how expensive their skills are. The problem with the other skill as well, if not an attack, is that it can sleep enemies, which is super strong, but it's only a 30% chance on actually inflicting that sleep, meaning you are doing the same damage, but on the left you will always recover energy, but on the right you have only a 30% chance on applying this. So I would personally go with Invigorating Strike. And now we go into rank 11, which is the last set of skills. And there is two really good options in here. First, you have the Life Devourer on the right. Single target attack dealing 100% 50 damage and also gaining life steal. And this has a 3-cost, no cooldown. Really good to be pairing with your Invigorating Strike. But the Doom Awaken not only works better with your kit, but it also makes you a complete beast. As you can see, this is an instant skill that will give you 2 Repulsion Barrier stacks and Doom Awaken for 3 turns. This cannot be dispelled or immune. Doom Awaken will make you do a lot more damage, will make you inflict an alert on a 3-tile radius, and also deal 70% magic damage 3 times per round every time someone gets close to you or your allies on a 3-tile radius. That is pretty strong. Not only that, but if we pick this skill right here, which is by the way the clear winner in this rank 11, and we go back to her main skill, you will see that when she has Doom Awaken, she will also be inflicting more infection damage after being attacked instead of waiting until the end of the turn, and half of the stacks will be removed. Now, what is a good build for her then? I will go with Invigorating Strike. You have your erosive force field for your reaction, and when it comes to the skills, there is multiple options you could be using. I will keep your basic skill, I would keep the erosive power, and you could go with something like the last skill we just unlocked, which is the Doom Awaken. Now again, there is a lot of possible combinations when it comes to this particular build for AoE damage. This is the recommended build that I would personally go myself if you want to go with damage over time. And in fact, we also can talk about gear, since this is also an important part for her, and it's important on the weapon more than the accessories themselves. When it comes to the weapon for this specific build, this is the best weapon. Resentment Broom, as you can see, increases AoE damage, but that's not the important part since she's doing AoE on some skills. But the best part is that you have a 25% chance to inflict life loss equal to 20% of your magic attack for 1 turn. Now, she already has a really high magic attack. Not only that, but her passive will proc with also life loss, meaning you're going to be doing 35% increased damage on this Resentment Broom. Now, this can go from a 25% chance of inflicting it all the way at the max stars to a 50% chance. This is why this Resentment Broom is so good for Momo, and it's probably the best weapon you can be using for her. The other 2 options, if you don't have this, of course, are going to be the Starry Sky Heritage or the Focus 1. If you don't have either, you can go with the Battle Pass weapon or with the basic explosive crystal to increase AoE damage. When it comes to her gear, there is a lot of options. Personally, what I recommend for most characters, in fact, is going to be the cooling powder. For most of your tanks and your frontline units, being able to not get the buff with healing received, a huge increase on their survivability. The other option that I'm going to be recommending this time is the Crystal Burst Armor, which increases your HP and strike backs deal more damage, which you're going to be doing with your reaction. Lastly, for tarot sets, I've always said the same thing, but tarots really depends on what you have available, alright? If you have a good tower tarot, it works perfectly for her. If you have a good Temptation of Devil, as long as there is a lot of mobs, this works as well. If not, it just depends on what you have available with good magic stats for her. Now that said, let's move into the engraving part, and for that we need to switch to the normal client. When it comes to engravings, there is a lot of possible options you can go with. My recommendation for most DPS characters right now is gonna be going with Sword plus Cap, because you can, while actively attacking, increase your damage by 5% and grant 15% of life steal, which is gonna increase the survivability of all of your main DPSs by a lot. Again, there is a lot of possible combinations in here, but that's the one I recommend. Now, the banner for these 2 characters is still not up. When I publish the first video, it might finally be open, so if you guys are gonna be pulling, good luck with that. All that said, it's gonna be it for this video on how to properly build Momo. If it was useful, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.
役立たずは楽園から追放するのみ。ブランとノワールのショータイムです。天地万物を切るとはこういうことだ。